What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, February 2nd. We're into February. It's almost the Super Bowl. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I am your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by CJ, the Hitman Hickman, and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
What's up, man? You meant to say it's Super Bowl time. That's what it's about. Forget about February. Let's do Super Bowl, baby.
You rile them up.
I mean, I guess that plays right into me asking you how you're holding up, CJ, because, I mean, it's 2 days away.
I'm ready, man. Let's get it.
Getting nervous? You freaking out a little bit?
Man. No, man. I'm ready, man. I'm ready for the game. Look, all the talking, media coverage, everybody's good. My players got to shine, got to hear people's stories. A couple of really good stories, too. Nick Foles and his struggles in the league, and then even his personal life going on there. You got Zach Ertz. My coach and his incredible infatuation with ice cream after every team meeting. It's pretty funny, you know. So it's a lot of good stuff going on right now. So it's cool.
Didn't I hear that some of your players are sick? Didn't I hear that?
I did. Hear that.
That's something that's raising an eyebrow.
Starters too.
After one, okay, 2 okay, but now we're getting to 4 players now dealing with illnesses. Now I'm wondering if Minnesota is poisoning my players at these restaurants because their level of saltiness cannot get no higher after I destroyed their team, and now I'm in their facility about to play the Super Bowl. So I don't know if it's a collaboration with Minnesota fans and Patriots fans coming together, but something's up. Something is up.
It's called Bill Belichick and Mike Zimmer working in cahoots for this. So,
I don't like it. I don't like it.
It's possible.
There's going on.
Yeah, so definitely got to make it interesting. Super Bowl, yay! Everything's under the microscope. Anyway, we have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we're going to be talking about our NFL playoff challenge for the Super Bowl week. So get your lineup set, everybody. That's an important detail. I know it's been 2 weeks. You're a little rusty. You might have forgotten, but you got to set that lineup. Of course, we're also going to bring you all the top headlines from around the league. Not a lot of news, but man, is there one major story to get to. Probably, honestly, going to take us a while to talk through. So we'll get to that. As always, if you have your own questions you would like us to answer on the air, please make sure you guys submit them because it's the offseason. We have a chance to do exactly that. You can send them in on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can email them to thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. You have many options. There's plenty more out there than that. All the links are usually in the description down below. And, of course, if you want to support the show, we are on Patreon. It helps us keep the lights on, helps us keep doing what we're doing, and you get yourself some bonus perks along the way. Simply head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics where you can get yourselves including a bonus show every single week where we handle the IDP, the PPR, all that good daily stuff, the stuff that, you know, helps take you to that next level. So that's a lot of the fun stuff that we don't necessarily get to talk about on this show. So with that, let's move on to our warm-up question of the day, which is, who do you think will be overdrafted in 2018 based on their 2017 performance? So is there anyone who is itching to go first? Because if not, I'll be happy to jump in here.
No, I took a shower today, so I'm not really itching. So you can go.
That was very dad joke-esque of you. I would expect that from Jason.
It's been that time of the month there for TJ.
I don't even.
Yeah,
okay.
Once a month, whether he needs it or not.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, let's off the rails. There we go. I'm going to jump in with my guy while you guys collect yourselves, and I'm going to throw a name that's going to be, I think, a hot-button topic. I think this is going to have a lot of debate this offseason, and I'm going to just go ahead and get it started on our show because we haven't really dove in yet because we haven't done our review, which is starting next week, and I am going to say New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara. Now,
Ooh.
I know. Look, I know Alvin Kamara finished as the number 4 running back in fantasy football. I know he also didn't really get it started until week 4, so there's a couple more weeks you can get in there. And really, he had a good week 3 as well. I know. And, you know, picked up even more consistently once Adrian Peterson was gone. I get all of that. He's great, and with a full season, he could do it. But, guys, here's the thing. Alvin Kamara, do you know how many touches he had this season? Well, let's start with rushing attempts. So we consider a bell horse, like really workload heavy, 3-down running back to get around 300 carries a season, right? That's roughly the threshold. Le'Veon Bell was the only one to reach that this season, but that's kind of what we expect to see for these top elite running backs when the season ends. So do you guys know off the top of your head without looking where, and because this is perception versus reality, where did Alvin Kamara finish, you guys think?
Am I running back or just overall?
No, in overall rushing
In
attempts.
touches. How many touches he got? For rushing attempts, for rushing attempts, I'm going to say probably 100, maybe under 100.
All right. CJ?
I would say probably in the 80s, 90s. Probably one of them.
There we go. And this is because we know, and we're plugged in, that we have this understanding that he was unbelievably effective on a per-touch basis. He had 120 rushing attempts on the season.
Oh, wow.
And that equaled, of course...
More than I thought, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But 16 games played, 120 rushing attempts, and he had 728 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. That is unbelievable production on a per-touch basis. Not to mention the receiving game where he hauled in 81 receptions. Yeah. Whoa! For another 826 yards and 5 more receiving touchdowns. So, I mean...
Crazy efficient.
Oh, yeah, we're talking 6.1 yards per carry and 10.2 yards per catch. Unbelievable efficiency. But the thing is, that is not a workload that you can rely on. We talk about all the time that opportunity is and how that translates to fantasy points. He's not getting the workload and the opportunity because there's another running back in this system that's getting usually that first, second down work, which is Mark Ingram. Yes, these guys are a fantastic 1-2 punch. And who's to say that won't continue? This is a team that wants to run the ball, was successful in running the ball. I get all of that, but it's one of those things. This is a rare talent. And I know the common counter-argument, which we'll get into a lot, is Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles, for his career, was this low-volume, high-efficiency player. And Alvin Kamara could be that guy, but I think it's way too early and it's way too big of a gamble to be betting on getting him where he's going. Because right now, if you want to take that shot at Alvin Kamara, a running back who was unbelievably efficient, so in the vast majority of cases, every superstar player, every top elite player, even the most good players, they have that one really good standout season that really stands out from their entire career. It can be their rookie season, and if this was Alvin Kamara's one big year, he's in for a big regression. Now, am I saying that's going to happen? I don't know, but if you want to put the capital into drafting Alvin Kamara, you have to draft him as the 4th running back off the board right now. He's going as the 6th overall pick, as the 8th pick in the first round. Guys, that is such a big gamble to me for a guy that we don't know how it's going to work out. You know, Mark Ingram is going to be there by all accounts, and so this is going to continue to most likely be a 1-2 punch, and if he loses a step of his efficiency there, I don't expect him to slow down, he's a young guy, but if he loses any of his efficiency here, we're talking about a nosedive in production unless his volume goes up. And I don't know how they could use him much more than they did unless Mark Ingram gets hurt and he starts running the ball more, because he was used primarily as a pass-catching option. So with another offseason of game tape as well, analyzing what they do, they're going to have to make adjustments on him. And again, not saying it can't happen, but it is a big risk. And I don't know if I'm willing to invest a top 6, a top half of the first round pick in a guy that I have this many question marks around. So what do you guys think? Am I crazy here?
I mean, I see your logic. I see your logic in thinking, man. But I mean, you still got to look at the when it comes to players like this. I like to look at the overall history of the coaching staff. And
Absolutely.
one thing about Sean Payton, man, he loves these gadget type players like Kamara is. I think Kamara is a definitely younger, more athletic, and more versatile and more dangerous in this offense than what Darren Sproles was with this team. So that right there, Sean Payton, his eyes blow up. I mean, you even heard it even during the draft process. Well, on this past draft, when it came to Kamara, they wanted to get him. They wanted to get him on the first round, and knowing that they didn't pull on him, and then they didn't pull him in the second round. They thought he was going to be gone, but then they wanted to go get him in the third round, and then bam, and everything is beautiful. So this is a coaching staff that loves this guy. They love what this guy can be able to bring to the table, because I think he could have probably ended up being the number 1 running back for fantasy if he could have started week 1. I mean, he showed a couple promises, but there was the crowd was just too much. It was too much going on there with Ingram, Peterson, and him. So I think, I am with you that, you know, it's a big investment for something that you don't know that's going to be 100%.
For a gamble.
Yeah, great gamble. But I still think he's going to pay off for you just because of the where he's at in the situation where he's at with that coaching staff and how much they want to get him more and more involved. And if this trend continues to go where they really don't use Drew Brees unless they need him, and their running game is going through Ingram and Kamara, I think that's still going to be good for you because they're going to have points, and then on those passing downs, Drew Brees is looking for Kamara.
So we are, I think, standing now at the opposite ends of this polarizing argument. So, and again, I don't disagree with anything you've said, not a word of it. The thing is, the efficiency. If he takes a drop, that you're spending a big investment for a guy that's not going to finish there. So I'll ask you then, CJ. I'm saying that going as a top 6 pick is too early for him. When would you feel comfortable investing in him? Because you said you think he could have finished number 1 overall, and the way this season went, sure, why not? But projecting him forward, that's my concern. So where would you feel comfortable drafting him in this year's draft? I mean, I know this is way too early, but where do you think?
In this year's draft, if I'm picking the last pick in the first round, I'll probably take him there. I'm either taking him the last pick in the first round or a high second round pick.
Okay.
Definitely a high second.
And for me, this investment has too many question marks. I'm not usually looking for question marks until the 3rd round. I accept the fact that he's not going to be there in the 3rd, even like first pick of the 3rd. So I would have to say if I wanted him, I'd be reaching top of the 2nd, which obviously, based on current drafts that are going on as we speak among league professionals and other analysts, he's not going to be there. So that's our polarizing stances right now, which is the argument surrounding him. So now, Jason, what are your thoughts? Break this tie here.
Well, I like both of your arguments. I mean, you both make excellent points, and Kamara is a rare talent. But the bottom line is the DNA of this football team is not a run-first team. They look like a run-first team this year. They were a run-first team this year. But you got Drew Brees back there. He wants to throw the ball, And the good thing is that Kamara is an excellent pass catcher, as we've seen. But you cannot bank on that. You have to see, just like you talked about Jamal Charles, and you talked about the other gadget players that were used with this New Orleans team. But again, you didn't know that was going to be the case until after it had already happened. With Alvin Kamara, he's had 1 year, and he looked hyper efficient. And as we've said, teams are going to be able to game plan for that now. Are going to be looking for that now. So you can't bank on the fact that with little touches, he's going to be this efficient every single year. So for me, I'm still in wait-and-see mode when it comes to Alvin Kamara. I would probably not look for him until end of the 2nd, top of the 3rd.
So we are aligned in that thinking. I'll just put it to you this way, and we'll leave this as the cherry on top, which to me just blows my mind. He is currently going 2 picks ahead of David Johnson. So,
that's just disrespectful.
And yes, I get it. David Johnson, he's hurt, but it's not like he had an ACL. He had a wrist injury. He's already back as 100% full. He could jump to a game right now. He could have come back if the Cardinals were at all in the playoff picture towards the end of the season. They elected not to risk it because why? So, I mean, and we've seen him. He can handle the workload. He's a 3-down back. And currently, this is a team that's going to be heavily relying on him going into 2018 based on pieces that we already know that they've lost this offseason. This is, of course, before free agency. This is before the draft. And last time we saw this situation play out, David Johnson got a boatload of touches. So that's just crazy to me. I personally would take David Johnson over Alvin Kamara 10 times out of 10. And I really do like the talent of Alvin Kamara, but it's just question marks, and that's not worthy of a first-round pick to me, much less a high first-round pick when you have that many question marks. But I've rambled on. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So my guy is Kareem Hunt. Now, listen, I understand. I mean, Kareem Hunt, I drafted him this year. He was fantastic at the beginning of the season. But then this team, like everybody else known and saw and probably ended up going with, it was a rough 5 weeks of time, though. They could not get anything going in the run game. And in the pass game as well. He was just not effective. They just went stalling. And I'm a little scared going into this upcoming season. Now, look, I like Patrick Mahomes. I like the talent there. I like the speed that he's a dual threat quarterback. He can be able to make moves on the legs as well. And I think all signs are pointing up that this offense probably won't miss a beat. But yet, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to still be. You can basically say that this was a red shirt year for him. I mean, this was just what it be. I mean, Alex Smith was the quarterback. He was the one that was getting the production there, and he was the one that had to elevate his game because Patrick Mahomes was going to be over his shoulder. So now going to this year now, we're going to, spoiler alert, we're going to get to what's going to happen with the quarterback situation.
I was going to say, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes getting ahead of us a little bit there.
But right now, Patrick Mahomes is the guy. He's the guy there. So I'm a little hesitant about putting Kareem Hunt in that list because I think of a talent alone, I think he is a first-round pick just because he's going to be that bell cow there for you. And there's not a lot of question marks like you guys were talking about when it comes to Alvin Kamara. That's not really there with Hunt, but as far as being productive and being consistent, that's really what I really want to get to is being consistent throughout the year. Can this happen? I don't think so right now. I think you still have to wait and see with this offense just to be able to see how is it running with Patrick Mahomes running the ship, because you might get what was that 2 seasons ago with Todd Gurley. Like everybody wants to say Todd Gurley, he was there, he was the guy, he was coming in, but they shut that down and forced the pressure back on the quarterback, and I think that's going to be detrimental if you draft him early and he gets shut down like that. So that's my guy, Kareem Hunt.
So I think it's funny that we kind of find ourselves on opposite ends of the argument here because Kareem Hunt now for me is someone that I feel more comfortable drafting highly because we know that the volume's going to be there. The only reason that I would side with your side of the argument is because Spencer Ware should be back. So we're not sure how that workload's going to really play out. And, I mean, yes, there was a 5-week in real life, but actually it was 6 weeks in fantasy where he did not get you double-digit points, which is scary. But, I mean, he started strong. He kind of tapered off. It looks like the team kind of remembered that, oh, yeah, we have this awesome running back, and we do better when we have him. And then they won out the last 3 games when they were giving him high volume, where he got 116 yards, 155 yards, 91 yards on the ground, a touchdown all 3 weeks. Plenty of production through the air as well. So I agree that the question mark is there because we don't know how it's going to play out. But if they're able to consistently give him volume, I like the chances that he is going to be one of those top guys at the end of the year. I mean, he had 1,300 rushing yards. That's pretty darn good. I'll take that. Good. I don't know. Jason, what do you think?
All right. Well, look, something that teams are going to have to be more cognizant of when they play Kansas City this year that they have not had to worry about in the past is the deep ball. Patrick Mahomes has a howitzer attached to his shoulder, and he's going to launch the ball down the field. It's just in his DNA. He's a gunslinger. So teams are going to have to watch out for that. They're not going to be able to stack the box like they did against Kareem Hunt this year. So I tend to think Kareem Hunt's going to return on investment as far as being there, because I think he's going to be a bell cow. I'm not worried about Spencer Ware coming back. I don't think that's the thing. I think Kareem Hunt's going to be the guy there, and I think he's going to do well, especially if they upgrade a little bit at the offensive line position, especially they're going to have to protect that young quarterback. And they're going to open up the offense a little bit, throw down the field a little bit more, which is going to open up some running lanes. So I like Kareem Hunt's return on investment.
All right, so just to put it all in perspective, he's currently going at the back of the first as the 11th pick in the first round, so that's averaging the 10th pick because right now David Johnson and Melvin Gordon are tied for the 109. So I think that seems appropriate. Jason, do you agree?
Yeah, I can see him going in the bottom of the first.
Sure. So CJ, where do you think that he should go?
I would say he probably needs to go like in the middle of the second.
Middle of the second. And I get the hesitation because there was a drop-off, but I think that was game script. I think that was maybe he was faltering. It's too early to tell, but I mean that red flag is absolutely there. So I mean you can't just throw it away because it happened. So I agree with you, CJ. But I see the opportunity with Patrick Mahomes being there. They're going to want to get the ball out of his hands more. I think they run the ball more. They've seen that when they do run the ball with him that they win. So I could easily see a world where he returns on that first round value. So and
I hope so because the talent is there, and I mean just to piggyback on Jason's point, if they improve that offensive line, and just like you guys say, if Patrick Mahomes continues to go out there and shows that he's the real deal, like in preseason, like normally I make my final determinations on where I want to pick people up, then I would definitely change my tune about this. I'm not concrete about this statement. It's just a very early pick, and when I look at the situation right now, I look at that stretch of lows that this team was going through, that was a little concerning to me. That's why I brought it up.
I agree. I mean,
And it's a completely decent argument because I mean, you look at Todd Gurley. After his first year, everybody freaked out. Oh my God, Todd Gurley's going to be great. And then what happened? He was awful. And it was obviously not all his fault and everything. He was a rookie. And as is Kareem Hunt. So CJ, I completely understand the argument here, and it could absolutely blow up in your face if you go out and do what you did with Todd Gurley, which is draft this guy real high.
Right. And these will be the arguments that I'm sure we will be having all off season long. So yay! It'll be fun when we start deep diving into the stats and the trends and what actually happened in the upcoming weeks and months to kind of solidify our opinions on these things. So with that, let's move on. Sure Jason, your guy, long warm up today.
I figured you guys were picking rookie running backs. I figured I'd go ahead and pick one too. Christian McCaffrey.
All right.
Same kind of reasoning as Alvin Kamara, to be honest with you. I think this is a third down back. He's not a workhorse. He's not going to be getting the first and second down touches. Also, you got a brand new offensive coordinator there, and we saw what happened with the Falcons when they got a new offensive coordinator. We know what can happen to an offense when that happens. They're going to be good eventually, probably, but we don't know. And North Turner doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience dealing with this style of a running back, So I think Christian McCaffrey is going to take a bit of a step back. I think the whole offense is probably going to try to fight to find its legs. And Christian McCaffrey right now, as far as I know, is going in the second round. I think I'd be looking for him more in the third to fourth round.
Third to fourth. Yeah, I mean, he's going mid to late second. I could see that. And, Jonathan Stewart, that's concerning. We don't know how they're going to adjust. He is more of a third down back. So we're talking a lot of question marks here. He finished as a running back, too. You don't normally see those type of guys. And he was like a middle-of-the-pack running back, too. You don't normally see those guys going in the second round. So I think there's some optimism in his current draft stock. If they start using him heavily, though, he could return on it, but I find myself kind of leaning your way as well. I don't think I would invest a mid-second round pick on Christian McCaffrey, especially because we're talking at that point. I mean, he could be your number one running back, and that's some inconsistency there. I'm going to bring up his week-to-week stats. What do you think, CJ?
Well, for me, I guess I see Jason's point. I think that's a little. You're getting dangerously. If you like Christian McCaffrey, you might miss out on him if you wait too that long. As far as late the third, early fourth, I think he'll be gone by then. But with me, and I think that people need to do, and what we were talking a little bit before the show was, you got to look at North Turner and check his history when it talks the types of players that he is coached at this position. And has he had like a elusive gadget type player like Christian McCaffrey is? And when I'm just off the top of my head, I think back to when he was coaching for San Diego, and I remember Darren Sproles. I mean, so he's that type of guy, basically like that. And as far as I remember, Darren Sproles was pretty effective in that North Turner offense. Now, look, a lot of things have changed. NFL defenses has changed, so you got to take all that under consideration as well. But I'm just thinking about the success he had with those people, and I think that if this, just like Jason was mentioning with Kareem Hunt, if this Carolina Panthers team can get some upgrade on the offensive line, they're skilled position players with receivers that they can take a step forward, and keep those defenses from stacking the box. I think this would be a good. I don't know if you can say bounce back year, but I think this would be a good year 2 for Christian McCaffrey. And that he can, show that he is that guy that was drafted high in this organization, and those high expectations that he can be able to pay off on this year.
So, what do you think a good value is then?
The value, see me with him, and I mean, I have trouble sometimes liking guys a little too much and putting them in make their situations better with it than it should be. So I think. For me, I'll probably go top of the third. I think the top of the third, between 1 to 5 is the highest I will go and the latest I would go for.
So you're willing to go about a half a round later than he's currently going. So
yeah.
All right. I mean, And, of course, this is all, from the heart. We're going to start our deep dive and analytic breakdowns once the season ends after the Super Bowl this weekend, and that's when we start really recapping the year. But I will say, just looking at his stats, he only had 3 weeks where he was, he neither won, he had we consider a startable performance when they get you, well into the double digits, or, a weak losing performance where they get you short of double digits by a decent margin. He only had 3 weeks where he kind of fell in that middle area. He was either really good for your team or really bad. So, it's kind of polarizing. Just looking through his stats right now, he had 1, 2, 3 weeks where he was a, really good starting option, and about 7 weeks that I'm seeing where he got you mid to low single digits. So, definitely polarizing. And I think a lot of that is workload, opportunity, volume, and he didn't get you 500 yards on the ground. He got you 650 receiving. Combined, he got you 7 touchdowns. So, I think this is another guy who's going to be polarizing. So, to me, that's a lot of question marks, and we have to see how they transition with all the changes that are happening around him in the system. I think this fuels the argument that mid-second round is a little early for the guy. So we all kind of agree on it, though CJ is the highest. So, these are 3 guys that we are currently seeing going higher than we think that they should be. So, and this will, of course, develop and change and evolve as we go through the offseason. So that's kind of half the fun looking back. I almost said in January. At the beginning of February at 2018 season. So, all right, with that, let's move on to our top headlines from around the league. And we have to start with the earth-shattering, groundbreaking news that broke just a day or two ago. I don't remember when it actually came out. And that is that Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Alex Smith has been traded to the Washington Redskins. Now, this saves the Kansas City Chiefs $17 million against the cap. They did also acquire cornerback Kendall Fuller and a 2018 third-round pick. So, pretty decent swap there. And Washington has since also signed Alex Smith to a 4-year extension worth $94 million. And so that makes it about $71 million guaranteed over his 5-year contract that he now has with the Redskins. So I turn to you guys. They have clearly made a statement here. Alex Smith, who's now under contract through 2022, free agent in 2023, Kirk Cousins out the door. So, my initial gut reaction to this was, wow, that made a statement, and I think they downgraded. But, they got a guy under contract for the long haul because Kirk Cousins, as we've broken down all last offseason, he didn't want to be there, especially with the team president being there. He was only going to stay if he got an abnormal, unbelievable amount of money, which they weren't willing to pay, and they were going to have to franchise tag him for a 3rd year if they wanted to keep him, which would have been ridiculous amounts of money, over $35 million, I think I read last. So, this, of course, causes an earth-shattering thing to happen on the other side of the spectrum. That is that we see a franchise quarterback on the open market, which almost never happens. The last time this happened was, of course, Peyton Manning coming back from injury, which was everybody kind of knew it was a ticking time bomb. And then before that, what would you say was before that? Maybe Drew Brees, but he was not the Drew Brees that we know today. This doesn't happen very often. People might argue, well, Jay Cutler last year. Jay Cutler got cut. He wasn't a franchise quarterback to begin with. So, this rarely happens, and now he is in position to absolutely set the market, probably have an NFL record contract. So, the question is, before we start getting into the speculation for Kirk Cousins, what do you think of this Alex Smith move? What do you think this means for fantasy? How do you think this affects the Chiefs and the Redskins? What are the impacts and the implications from this trade?
Well, I got to say that you said that you think that they made a downgrade. I don't see it as a downgrade. I really see it more of a lateral movement. Alex Smith is a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's one of the winningest quarterbacks over the last 5 years. He is a winner. He has a good head for football. He knows what he's doing. My problem is he's moved to a team that is not as good as the one that he left. So that's an issue. As far as does this upgrade or downgrade anybody in my eyes, I think it downgrades everybody for the first year because he's got no rapport with anybody. This is a brand new team, so he's going to have to gain that rapport with everyone, and we don't even know who he's going to have to throw the ball to necessarily because we know Terrell Pryor's probably out the door, and who's their number 1 guy going to be. So there's a lot of question marks as far as the Alex Smith portion of this argument goes. And for me, I think I don't touch Washington for a while.
All right.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to the impact as far as the Chiefs, I think this is a situation where this is a win-win from them. I mean, they saw what they had in Patrick Mahomes in the preseason. You know, they were basically molding him, redshirting him, getting him used to the playbook, the terminology, getting used to the NFL. You know, you've been seeing him in practice, and you know that I think it was that last game of the season they got to see him play a little bit there too, and they like what they saw. And even and the starters weren't even out there, and he was still effective, and they end up getting the win. So this team, they've seen and saw what Alex Smith can do in this offense. I think this was the best year he's ever had with the Chiefs. But once again, this team and I'm not blaming the loss on him. This loss was on the defense. But once again, this team was not successful in the playoffs, and that's something right now when you're looking at the Chiefs that's been attached to this team, especially with Alex Smith. Now, once again, like I said, this last loss was not his fault. It was on the defense. But this team now is like, okay, look, we want to take a step further forward. So in their mind, they're thinking that Patrick Mahomes can be able to do that, get the ball more down the field, more frequently, more consistently, and then hopefully with this youth being inserted into this offense, maybe that spreads out and starts to affect and have a more positive effect around this whole team. So now, you know, Travis Kelce, maybe his numbers go up even more. Maybe he gets more touchdowns. Definitely, I think he's going to have a big impact on Tyreek Hill. I mean, that dude's a freaking speed demon. He can just throw the ball up there, and he's just going to come down with it. You know, and you know, like we were talking about earlier with Kareem Hunt, that's to be determined. I mean, if he's balling out, of course that's going to affect Kareem Hunt, and he's going to be even more effective there. So there's in my mind, there's a lot of question marks when it comes to the effectiveness on what this trade is going to do for the Chiefs going forward. If they actually won on this, I think they won, of course, on getting the cornerback because they desperately needed that. I mean, outside of Peters, outside of Peters, this team was just pathetic on the secondary. How they were just giving us so many yards. So, you know, in my mindset, I would say it's a win because they got what they wanted as far as being able to trade it, still get some pieces coming in there, and now they have a full season of getting this rookie some more exposure.
And you know, the third part of this equation is obviously Kirk Cousins. And guys, if I told you 3 years ago that Kirk Cousins was going to set the market for quarterbacks, you'd have called me nuts. You know, you'd have been like, no way, Kirk Cousins? No. But I tell you what, he has done such a fantastic job over his career with a subpar team, with a subpar management, subpar front office. He's been able to win, and he's been able to put up ridiculous yardage. So Kirk Cousins definitely, he deserves to set the market at this point, given what he's been able to do with what he's had. You know, and this is going to absolutely change whatever franchise he ends up going to. If he ends up going to Denver, we've already talked about the implications of Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. My God, I mean, those guys instantly become fantasy relevant once again. Same thing with the Jets. You know, the Jets could possibly land him, and again, you're looking at suddenly you've got a team that's viable.
Right.
So,
but we're getting ahead of it.
This is very exciting.
Yeah. And we'll get to the Kirk Cousins upside. But, I mean, as far as defending my statement, I like Alex Smith. I really do. And to CJ's point, the Chiefs did upgrade their defense here. So you got Marcus Peters, of course, Eric Berry back from injury next year. They now have Kendall Fuller, who is now there. So they've definitely upgraded their defense, which is something they needed. They like Patrick Mahomes. They have faith in him. They invested a pretty high first-round pick on him. I get all that. They have faith. But, I mean, like you also mentioned, CJ, the Chiefs are cashing in on Alex Smith's career season. It was his first season he has ever thrown 4,000 yards, and barely 4,042 yards. Kirk Cousins has averaged about 4,500 yards in his 3 years as a starter, roughly around there. Yeah. He also had his career best in touchdowns, 26. He averages in the mid to high teens. That's not very good, especially a team that relies heavily on the quarterback and passing the ball, where over the 3 years that Kirk Cousins was in Washington, 29, 25, 27, so about 10 more touchdowns a season coming from the quarterback. So, I mean, Kirk Cousins, he is the premier quarterback that's going to be on the market now. And, I mean, I have to believe he's a downgrade. I like Alex Smith, but Kirk Cousins was making more throws. He has been more effective throughout his starting career. And, I mean, I know we saw a different Alex Smith this year, but he has a long career of being labeled as a game manager. And I think he's more than that, but I wouldn't put him into any elite category. I mean, a lot of times you hear this guy as kind of the measuring stick for, if they're better than Alex Smith, then they are elite. If they're worse than him, then they're bad. He's kind of that average quarterback. And he broke that mold a bit this year, but I don't know how that's going to project forward on a new team in a new system with new weapons that he has to build a rapport with. And yes, he features his tight end heavily, which is great for Jordan Reed. But guess what? Jordan Reed is rarely healthy. They don't have a great running game. It's a lot of things that concern me in Washington. So, I mean, Alex Smith could be a guy that you might see go up draft boards because people are like, oh, he's got all these weapons. Well, I don't think his weapons are anywhere an upgrade over what he had in Kansas City. So I personally,
downgrade.
I would as well. So I don't like the move for Alex Smith. I don't like the move for Washington. I don't like the move for Washington weapons. But the Redskins get a franchise quarterback that they're comfortable with under contract for 5 years, something that they knew that they were not going to be able to get done within a reasonable value with Kirk Cousins.
So, they get commitment with something that they were looking for Kurt.
Exactly.
Kurt wouldn't give it to him. And Kurt is justifiably so not wanting to give it to him. They've been playing with him the last couple of years.
They have.
Hey, play with him.
He's been nothing but a team player.
Yep.
They also get a winner, like I've mentioned. I mean, yeah, we talked about the stats, we talked about all that, but the bottom line in the NFL is wins and losses. And Alex Smith has a lot of experience winning in this league. So that's another nice thing. They're getting a guy that can come in there and can show them how to win and get to the next level.
But in Washington, they also don't have the defense that they have in Kansas City. Yes, Kansas City wasn't great on defense this year. That's because they were banged up. I mean, they're going to be playing from behind, I think, more than not. And I don't think Alex Smith is going to be the guy that can get them back in those games. I mean, I just don't.
Yeah, especially with the weapons they got currently. So yeah, I understand. Yeah. I get it.
This trade doesn't blow my mind, but I understand why it happened because Washington.
From that point, that side of it, it blows my mind from the other side of it because, like CJ said, I think Kansas City gets exactly what they wanted. They wanted Patrick Mahomes to be the guy, and he is. And they wanted a really good corner, and I think they got a really good corner out of the situation.
Yeah, they got an upper echelon. I wouldn't say he's elite by any stretch of the imagination, but an upper echelon corner, good IDP option, and they get a third-round pick for getting rid of a quarterback that they only had 1 year left in his contract anyway. So, I mean, yeah, Kansas City, I think, made out like bandits here. Now, we did also hear that Cleveland and Arizona were reportedly also trying to make a trade happen for Alex Smith. It just looks like, Washington got the high bid in, so there you go. Now, let's go to the other side of the coin, the much more interesting side, the one that has a massive potential impact for fantasy football. As we mentioned, Kirk Cousins, a franchise quarterback, you almost never see this, is set to hit the open market. We now know he will not be returning to Washington. So, oh my God, where is he going to go? I mean, he's openly said that money is not the only factor he's looking for. He wants to win. He wants to be productive in his career. There have been a lot of potential landing spots that have either he's been linked to, have been talked about, that we know have expressed interest. Those teams include Arizona, Denver, Minnesota, the Jets, the Giants, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Bills, and the Dolphins. And we've also heard rumors of Tampa Bay and Cincinnati, but I don't think that's realistic. Now, going through the pecking order here, I have to ask, where do you guys think he's likely to land? Because my top two candidates are the two that I listed first. I think the odds are that Denver is going to pursue him heavily, and I think Arizona will pursue Kirk Cousins heavily. They're both teams that have a desperate need for quarterback. They have aging weapons that they want to get a quarterback that can get them the ball. That is the most glaring spot in their offense right now. So those are my two teams that I'm locked into, and they're kind of middle of the league for cap space. Arizona has the 18th most cap space, and Denver has the 17th most cap space. There are teams with a lot more space, but some of them are not winning franchises. They're very much in rebuilding, and I think that's going to scare Kirk Cousins off potentially unless the money is insane. Yeah. So I throw the ball to you guys. Where do you think it's going to go? Because Jacksonville, they have come out and reconfirmed that Blake Bortles is their guy. We thought that might end up not being the case. They might go elsewhere, and that could be coach speak. We know that Tyrod Taylor is out in Buffalo. They're probably not going to bring him back. We've heard rumbles of them not being they wanting to progress from Ryan Tannehill in Miami, and him coming back from injury is scary. Cleveland needs a lot of help. The Giants, we know that Eli Manning is on his way out. The Jets, probably, they're definitely looking for something. So what do you guys think here?
I was about to say, you about to get a full breakdown, guy. Keep going.
The Vikings have 3 quarterbacks, actually all 3 of which they really like. So, that's all the team. So go ahead. What do you guys think? What's your favorite landing spot? What do you think's likely? What do you think's going to happen?
Well, okay, my favorite landing spot is Denver. What's more likely, I think, is most likely Denver. I think right now, when it comes to overall team, I think Kurt's going to look at this situation and says, look, I got 2 top wide receivers. That's a plus. I got a okay, decent average. I would just say okay, tight end. And then I got running backs behind me that are I like to always throw to the running backs. I got C.J. Anderson back there. I got Jamal Charles. I got Booker back there as well. So I'm good on that. And then I got a good defense right now. Even though I don't like that report talking about them trying to get rid of Khalid. So I'll take that in stride, whatever. But So, I look at this situation, I'm like, look, I think Kirk, even though, right now they don't look too good when it comes to cap, but just like he said, he's not right now, he's at a position where he's not in it just for the money, he wants to win. So I think out of all the teams right now on this list, I think that's the best position for him, that he can be able to succeed and build some chemistry with these guys, and they can actually probably make a run. Even when you look at that division, right now you got the Raiders, here they are coming with Jay Gruden. You don't know, John Gruden, you don't know what's going on with him. So you don't know for sure. You know the history, but you don't know for sure that team's going to take off next year. You got the Chargers; they're on the upper swing. That's a team that you're most likely going to have to compete with. They got the youth right there, and then you got Kansas City. That's another team right now. They got a young quarterback that's going to start. You don't really know for sure what this team can go and their potential to go. So I think right now Kirk can come in there. And then Denver can go back to being that good dominant Denver Broncos team that they were a couple years ago, especially under Peyton Manning.
All right. First off, Miami, no, it's not going to happen. I think Tannehill's their guy. He's gonna go there. He's gonna stay. It's fine. Minnesota, give me a break. How many quarterbacks do they get to have? They've got 3 they like.
Especially when Arizona has none, right?
Exactly. I think Minnesota likes Bridgewater. They're going to bring Bridgewater back. He's going to be their guy. In my opinion, there's only 3 actual landing spots that I could see happening, and that's Denver, the Jets, and Buffalo. Now, I think it's going to end up being between Denver and the Jets. I think Buffalo's going to make a play for Kirk Cousins. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think that it's going to come down to money or winning. It's going to be Denver and the Jets. The Jets have a lot of cap space. They could possibly bring him in. But I think eventually I agree with CJ. I think it's going to come down to who's the most complete team that's just a quarterback away, and that's Denver. Denver has a fantastic defense. They've got fantastic weapons. They are a complete team. They're well coached. They've got a good front office. This is a team that's ready to win right now. And with Kirk Cousins in the fold, I think they could do that. I know everybody's saying, well, what about Arizona? Well, this is the bottom line. Arizona has a problem spending money. They don't like to spend a lot of money on one position, even the quarterback position. So I don't see it happening in Arizona. I think it's just going to be too rich for their blood. I wouldn't mind. I think Kirk Cousins is a fantastic quarterback, and he's just exactly the kind of guy that you want to see under center. But eventually I think it's going to come down to teams that are willing to pony up the dough, and that's going to be Denver and the Jets.
I would love to see him in Arizona. The weapons there, the running game, the defense. I think it'd be a great spot. And honestly, that's their biggest need. And like we said, there were reports saying that they were trying to make a trade happen for Alex Smith. So why not pursue they're going to pursue a free agent quarterback. I don't know if they penny up for Kirk Cousins, but they're going to have to get somebody.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think they're going to try to trade for somebody. To be honest with you, they've always had a lot of success with trades. Kine is really good at it.
But why?
And I already. What's that?
But why would they? There's so many free agent quarterbacks, one franchise one out there, and this is a quarterback-rich draft class. Why would they trade for somebody else?
We're not talking about going out and buying a car. We're talking about picking the guy that's going to lead your team, and
right.
You got to pick the right person.
Right.
And Steve Kine is not the kind of guy that goes, he's a good player, I'm going to go get him. He's got to be wooed by him. He's got to love the guy totally. And if he's going to spend that kind of money on Kirk Cousins, he's got to be absolutely in love with him. It could happen. It absolutely could happen, and there are other free agents that are available, but none of them are guys that I see being the kind of guy that can lead a team to a Super Bowl, and that's what they're looking for. So I think they're going to try to trade. I think they're going to go for somebody like a Nick Foles, or for somebody like a Jacoby Brissett, or someone like that they can mold into the kind of guy that they want.
I'm always taking phone calls. Griffin, are you serious? You like Kirk Cousins to Arizona more than Denver?
I'm not saying I like it more, but those are, like I said, those are my two top candidates because both of them have a wide receiving core that he could utilize. They both have running games. Of course, the Broncos have a running back core, which is kind of what he's used to. The Cardinals have an elite runner. It doesn't really change what it matters for Kirk Cousins, of course. Here, he's got a running game. Both of them have good defenses. I think they're both good landing spots. That's why I could see them going either way, and they're both competitively in the mix. 17th and 18th most cap space. So those are by far my two favorite landing spots. I think we all universally agree that Denver is going to pursue them more aggressively, so that could be probably where he lands. But, I could also see, like Jason said, the Jets. The Jets have the fourth most cap space, and they're willing to penny up the cash for a guy like this because they're in a full rebuilding process. But it matters if Kirk Cousins wants to jump in on something that is so far gone and in such a rebuilding. We mentioned, rebuilding, the Browns, who have the second most cap space. But they didn't win a single game. So though they can probably just throw an unbelievable, definitely the most money out of any team that's going to be looking for a quarterback, the only team with more money is the 49ers, which we all expected Kirk Cousins to go there before they made the trade earlier in the season to get Garoppolo. So
that'd be a good choice by the Niners.
So I agree that I see the most likely landing spot if I was to add a third to be the Jets out of all of these. Because like I said, Buffalo, I don't know if they're going to penny up the cash. Miami, I think it's unrealistic. They don't have the cap space. They have Ryan Tannehill. Jacksonville has recommitted themselves to Blake Bortles for the time being. Cleveland, he's probably not going to go there. The Giants intrigue me, but I don't think they're going to be as aggressive as some of these other teams. So and Vikings, I've heard so much, but I don't see it because they have three guys they like there that know the system, that are in-house, and they're going to probably try to retain one or two of those guys. And I don't know if they're going to try and spend a lot of money on an unknown, which could be seen as an upgrade, but how much of one for that price tag? So I don't see it. So I think it's going to be Arizona, Denver, or the Jets, and watch it be none of those three. So anything else you guys want to add?
Honestly, I'm good.
I think he's going to go to the Chargers. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
No, I Denver for sure, in my opinion.
Yes.
CJ. It's so dumb.
This is dumb.
Yeah. Tampa Bay and Cincinnati, like I said, I've heard some conversation about those guys. There's just no way. I don't see that. Winston, they have a lot of vested interest in, and he didn't become what we hoped he would be and thought he would be this year. But, I don't think they're going to jump ship on him. Same with Cincinnati. Andy Dalton has been good. He hasn't been elite, but he's been good for most of his career, and they know that their biggest problem is offensive line. I don't think they're going to spend that kind of money on another quarterback. It just doesn't make any sense at all. There'd be too much dead cap associated with that. So I throw those two out the window. Watch him land in one of those two places, though. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see in about a month and a half's time when free agency starts. So with that, let's move on to the running back position, where Arizona Sports' Mike Jurek, he reports that Arizona Cardinals... Jurecki, sorry, I didn't see the I. Will release running back Adrian Peterson this offseason. So...
Yeah.
Jason, thoughts here? Because he wasn't going to start with David Johnson there. They're the same frame. David Johnson's younger. He can be the red zone guy. He's a 3-down back. Adrian Peterson wouldn't really have a role. I'm going to look up the contract numbers because I'm not sure how much that had to play with things. But what are your thoughts here as the Cardinals fan of the show?
That doesn't surprise me at all. Adrian Peterson wanted to leave New Orleans because he wasn't getting volume, and now he's going to try to split carries with David Johnson. No. I wasn't expecting them to keep Adrian Peterson. They'll release him, and he will definitely find a landing spot. It's just a matter of who is willing to pay.
Yeah, if he stays, he's owed $2.8 million, almost $2.9. He has no dead cap. They can cut him with no penalty. So
which is why they're going to cut him.
Yeah, that seems like the logical and likely choice. He's 32 years old this season.
Plus, you look at what they did when he went down. You had Kerwin Williams, and he's still in the fold. He's still under contract.
Yep.
He's very good.
Ellington's
still
there, right?
Penny back there. So I think Arizona really likes their running back room. they're gonna just move forward with what they got, and Adrian Peterson's gonna get an opportunity somewhere else.
And you guys still have Andre Ellington, correct?
No,
no.
He's
He's with the Texans. That's
gone.
right. Actually, no, he was on a 1-year contract. He's a free agent now, isn't he? I think
He
so.
is now a free agent. Yeah.
I'll have to. Yeah. Okay. So I'll verify that, but I think we're right on that. So Adrian Peterson. For the second year in a row, a first ballot Hall of Fame running back hits the open market as well, an over-the-hill one, but he's out there. Let's see. New reports are coming out that that link the Jacksonville Jaguars to releasing running back Chris Ivory this offseason. First Coast News Mike Kay, he believes that it is, quote, nothing short of a formality. So it's all but said and done. They just have to actually do it. Not surprised here. I mean, Chris Ivory was brought in, 2 years ago to be kind of their lead back. Didn't really work out. As he is through most of his career, he was injured. And then they drafted Leonard Fournette, which, though he did not necessarily live up to expectations, we saw the upside, we saw the potential, we saw why they drafted him where they did. And Chris Ivory just really doesn't have a role there because they have T.J. Yeldon there, who's a pass catching back. Plus, they have an out in the contract, so they can get out. Well, if he stays, he's owed $7 million. If they cut him, only $3 million. So it all makes sense. Not surprised. You guys, any thoughts about this?
No, I mean I'm surprised he stayed as long as he did. He was there, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know about Fournette not living up to expectations. I mean, he was the 8th best running back in the league this year,
right.
Fantasy wise. So I mean. He played well. He's a rookie still,
right.
So I think he's just going to get better.
No. The concern, of course, surrounding him being his consistency and his availability because he was injured sporadically throughout the season.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, so they want to see him return on that value by being healthier more consistently and maybe with a full offseason because, of course, we know the most grueling stretch of a player's career is going from college to pros because you basically don't get an offseason. It's just straight through college into offseason conditioning, draft, player workouts, the whole 9 into rookie mini camps, OTAs, training camp, into the preseason, into the season. It's basically a 2-year stretch. So maybe with the offseason to get healthy, we'll see a revitalized, hopefully no sophomore slump Leonard Fournette in 2018. So I think that's what they're hoping. Right. They can save basically $5 million by cutting a guy they're not even using. It all makes sense. So let's move on to last bit of news. We'll go to a little bit of other news. We'll go to Pittsburgh, where inside linebacker, there it is, Ryan Shazier, he has been discharged from the hospital, of course, recovering from his back surgery. This is good news. We don't expect him to necessarily return to playing, but, this is just a good human story, feel good. It's good to see a guy like that, able to walk, because that was a fear. So, yeah, congratulations, Ryan Shazier. And with that, let's move on to our topic of the day. The reason that you are all here, and we're almost an hour in already, so we're gonna get to the good stuff pretty quickly. We're gonna go more in depth on the Patreon show. NFL Playoff Challenge, Super Bowl week. This is the preparation for the final week of the NFL Playoff Challenge. So, to recap, guys, how are we all doing here? Do you guys happen to have all of that up, ready to go?
I don't, but I still think I remember that I was in second place, if I remember right.
You are in second. I'm in first. Jason is in third. And if I remember correctly, I've got it. I have it in front of me. CJ, hot on my heels with a lot more players with multipliers than I do. So, we, of course, let's talk about it. We've got the New England Patriots versus... Oh, sorry, it's vice versa because the Patriots are technically the home team. We have the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New England Patriots. So what are the options that we like for this game? Obviously, weather plays no factor in this because it's inside in a dome in Minnesota. So even though you're hearing all these reports about how unbelievably frigid it is up there, doesn't make a difference because it's indoors. It's climate controlled. So... who is startable? Who do you like? What are the matchups that we're looking for? Who do you think is worth starting for daily fantasy, for your NFL playoff challenges, that sort of thing?
Okay, well, I like for the Eagles, I'm going to just real quick say that I think you could take a deep shot at Nick Foles. I think you got to do that. I like Jay Ajayi. I like Alshon Jeffrey. I think Nick Foles. I think Nelson Aguilar, I really like him in this game. I like a matchup between him and Eric Rowe. Eric Rowe is not that very good in coverage, so I think he can be able to take advantage of that. Of course, you got to go Zach Ertz there. So that's them on offense. On the other side of the ball, of course, you got to go Brady, and then of course you got to go Gronk. Your sneaky guy, I think you got. I'm gonna go Chris Hogan over Amendola in this
Really?
game. I think Chris Hogan might this might be a Chris Hogan game where he can weasel out and get some yards and probably get some touchdowns. I know that's normally Amendola's role, but I'm gonna go Chris Hogan here for that one. And then
Both of them over Cooks?
yeah, well, yeah, both of them Cooks. I'm not really liking Cooks this game.
They're going to take it away, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And then running backs, just wrap up real quick. I like Rex Burkhead over Lewis.
All right. And, of course, there's the touchdown upside there, the red zone work.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. Jason, what do you think?
Well, I like both tight ends. Either Gronk or Ertz are both a really good option. They're going to play big roles in this game.
Absolutely.
Both defenses are obviously good. So I'm personally going with the Eagles defense over the New England defense.
That too.
Yeah, that's all right. But again, either defense is good. I just like the Eagles because they seem like a little bit more opportunistic. They like to cause those turnovers. So that's why I went with them. Quarterback-wise, I would probably go with Brady over Foles. I do like Foles, and I think that this game is going to be close, so I don't think it's going to matter all that much unless you have a multiplier. Running back-wise, I like Deion Lewis and Jay Ajayi. Both are going to get an opportunity to be really, really good. Rex Burkhead could sneak in and scalp some touchdowns away from Deion Lewis, but of the two of them, I prefer Lewis over Burkhead. This is a Danny Amendola game for me. I think this is going to be his game, or he's going to get a lot of passes going his way. And then the other wide receiver I like a lot is Alshon Jeffrey. I think he's going to get a lot of work here as well. I think this is going to be a really close game, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think.
Well, I agree with everything you guys have said. I mean, it's tough because this is a game that's kind of evenly matched. Both of these teams have decent defenses. I think they're both better than they show statistically. On paper, the Eagles are the better defense, but the Patriots are very good at taking away the top options. So I think they're going to do everything they can to take away Alshon Jeffrey. And so I think that, honestly, the Eagles, who, they have a plethora of running backs, they don't have, and correct me if you disagree, CJ, this is your team, but they don't have that elite, 3-down back. They have guys they use in different situations, so I think they'll scheme to take care of those guys as best they can. I think this really comes down to the tight ends on both sides, because I think on the opposite side, the Eagles' defense, they're going to do everything they can. They're going to eliminate the deep threat with Brandon Cooks, and so I agree. Look, Danny Amendola, he is, and he's proven this 2 years in a row, he is just fire in the offseason. He that's when he turns it on, and he's been really, really good the last couple games. Really good 2 weeks ago against the Jags, and I see that momentum continuing on. I think he's going to be the sneaky play in fantasy that has the upside here. Now, it's a risk-reward. He could completely do nothing, but, I mean, the trends and the coverage, I think, is in his favor. But I think both these teams, you can't go wrong with either one of these tight ends, because both of these teams have mismatches at tight end that the other team, though statistically they're both pretty decent at covering the tight end. The Eagles are the 19th worst matchup, and the Patriots are the 21st best matchup. So they're middle of the pack on the side of stingy. But I think that Gronk and I think Ertz are going to honestly have the biggest impact on this game. I really like those guys. So which one I like better? Well, they're both featured pretty heavily, but, Gronk is Gronk on one side, but there's the injury risk. I don't know. What do you guys think? Besides our NFL playoff challenges, where I believe we all are playing Gronk, is that right? I know I am. CJ, I believe you are.
Yeah.
Jason, you?
I am too.
So we're all locked into Gronk right now, but if you had no multiplier going into round 4 of our NFL playoff challenge, who would you be firing up here? Who do you think has the most upside? Who do you think brings you home that win when you need just a little bit more points to win?
I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was say I would go Ertz for me, just because when I look at this Eagles defense, we've been really good against tight ends, and Gronk is Gronk. I mean, the last time we did play this team, he was not playing, so that is a factor.
Right.
But I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful here, but I'm not that scared of Gronk in this game, just because I like my safeties in coverage, and I know the way Jim Schwartz is going to be playing this game. He's going to have not only man coverage there, but he's going to have a safety over the top. So I mean, he's not going to be, he's not going to be stupid, foolish out there. I think Gronk, he will get some yardage, but I don't think he's going to be, detrimental to this Eagles team.
All right, Jason.
You said it earlier that the Patriots like to take away the top option, and to be honest with you, I don't think that they're scared of anybody on this Philly team other than Ertz. So I think they might focus in on stopping Ertz. Shockingly, because I mean he is the guy that had the most amount of success out of the pass catchers, pretty much consistently.
Yeah, that Minnesota game
this year. Yeah, I mean, so I honestly I think I'd probably still go with Gronkowski because he is the kind of guy that you look for in these big moments, and I think that Brady is going to use him as a safety net. I do like your Chris Hogan pick, by the way, CJ. I think that's a sneaky one.
You got to do that, especially with in those dailies.
That's super sneaky. Yeah, I like the upside for the value when you have to buy him in daily. Yeah,
right. And I think that translates over to Gronk too, because I think he's going to use Hogan to stretch the field because they're gonna lock down Brandon Cooks. I think he's going to use Hogan to stretch the field, and then he's going to do strikes in the red zone with Gronkowski. So, for me, of the two, no disrespect to Ertz because I love his play here, but I would probably still go with Gronk if I didn't have a multiplier.
Yeah, I get your argument, but I think that Belichick's going to do everything they can to take the deep threat away, which is why I believe that Jeffrey's going to get the majority of the coverage. But I do think their top targets are going to be Jeffrey and Ertz. It's going to be those are the guys they're going to be covering most stingily. But I go with Gronk because there's a lot of other weapons there that they're going to have to put coverage on, and I think they're going to do a good job covering him, but it only takes one play. Gronk is a mismatch no matter who's really covering him, and I think they're going to move the ball decently well, though not freely. I don't want to put that out there that the Eagles have a bad defense, because they don't. But, I mean, when they get to the red zone, if they're passing, odds are it's going Gronk's way, and it only takes 1 or 2 touchdowns to really make the difference, especially for us with a ×4 multiplier. So it's a big deal. You could go either way, and this is just what we're focusing on. Dion Lewis is going to get a lot of work between the 20s as always, but Rex Burkhead has that red zone rushing upside. James White is always the one turning it on we all thought that he got snubbed for Super Bowl MVP last year. I don't know. Yeah. This is an interesting game, and so I mean we've laid it out there. All of the things we like, I like all of them, but they have high floor, low ceiling. Or vice versa, low floor, high ceiling type volume around them, except for Dion Lewis to me, because I think just his work in between the 20s gives him a higher floor. Wide receivers we've broken down pretty effectively. Quarterbacks, of course, you can go either way, but I think the obvious choice is Tom Brady because it's Tom Brady versus Nick Foles. Though, I mean, if you want to play contrarian, I mean, Nick Foles technically has a better matchup. The Patriots are not as good on defense as the Eagles are statistically for fantasy. So, I mean, it goes a lot of ways, but yeah, that's more or less the breakdown. So, I mean, if you want to get more in-depth with who we're starting and why and our lineups and the position-by-position strength of matchup, numerically, the whole 9, that stuff we're going to be covering as we continue on to our Patreon show. So you can find that on patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. A little bit of a bumper there. But yeah, hopefully that helps you guys set your lineups, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Hopefully, hopefully if you're in the league with us, you don't eclipse all of us and win. That would make me very sad, because right now we're the top 3 in our league, so that makes me feel pretty good. And I'm holding on to first place, though I have less multipliers than I think both of you, so that makes me kind of sad. We'll see how it plays out. And we hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. Please make sure you guys do subscribe wherever you're listening. We'll be back on Tuesday when we're going to be getting to... Man, I've been waiting for this show since the season end. We're starting our definitive reviews position by position, and Tuesday we are diving into the quarterback reviews. So... Woo! These are going to be the shows you're going to want to bookmark, save, chronicle, archive, whatever you want to do, because we're going to be getting into the stats, what happened and why, and projecting that forward into 2018. So that'll be on Tuesday, and yeah, if you guys want to connect with the show, if you have questions that you would like us to answer, we happily answer them on the air, or just in general, you can submit those. Easiest way is usually on Twitter, at the FF Fanatics. You can send us a private message, which most people tend to do for some reason, or you can tweet them at us. It's at the FF Fanatics, so it's 3 Fs. The the FF Fanatics, Triple F. You can follow us individually as well. I'm at G Palmer FFF. CJ is at CJ Hickman 89, and Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. All right, so we are out of here. Any parting thoughts, guys?
Hey, man, go Eagles, man. Go Eagles.
Coming from the resident Eagles fan, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll second that. Go Eagles.
Yeah. Come on, Griffin.
I've got to. I mean, I want to be an unbiased analyst. I mean, that I strive to do that. But bottom line, I'm a Ravens fan. Ravens hate the Patriots, and I just don't want the Patriots to win another Super Bowl. It's too many. So I am going. I'm pulling for my partner in crime, CJ the Hitman Hickman's Eagles in this game for sure.
Yes.
Now, as we'll talk about on the Patreon show, we'll talk about who we actually think is going to win. But my heart is with the Eagles, so that's the way we're going. So, all right, guys, take care. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl and the commercials, of course. I know some people tune in just for that because not everybody loves this matchup. It is what it is. We're there for the football, and we'll be back to recap and talk about it on Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Bye.